All right, we're looking at review quiz number 4. All right, this is our semester exam review. This is part 4 of 5, and we're looking at question number 1. Gives us this diagram. It's asking for the length of segment WZ going across right here. Now you can tell by the congruent markers on this diagram that this length right here, VZ, and this one, YZ, are the same length. Same thing for VW and XW are the same length. So that means the ends of this segment that it's asking about are both on the midpoints of those sides of the triangle. That makes this segment, the one that's asking about, the mid segment of this triangle. Okay, and what that means is that this length right here, this 9x minus 5, that is half of the length of the side that it corresponds with, this 15x plus 2. Okay, so the way we're going to set up that equation, it looks like this. The side length, 15, if I can get the pen to work, the side length, 15x plus 2, is twice as much as the mid segment. So that equals 2 times the mid segment, 9x minus 5. That right there very quickly becomes a pretty easy equation to solve. What we're going to do is distribute this, turn it into 15x plus 2 equals 18x minus 10, and then we got to move it. We got to move everything around to where all of our x's are on one side of the equal sign, all of our constant numbers are on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and take care of the x's first. I'm going to move this one over by subtracting it. Okay, that's the smaller x value, so I'm going to move it over so we don't have to deal with any negative numbers. Minus 15x on both sides. That side, it goes away. All we have left is the positive 2. This side, 18x minus 15x is 3x. We still have that minus 10. Now I want to get rid of that 10, so we'll add on both sides. That goes away. 12 equals 3x, and you can just divide that. It's pretty simple. X is equal to 4. Now, you'll notice that one of your answer choices is 4. But here's the thing. You need to make sure you're answering the question that's being asked. It's asking which one is the length of WZ. Okay, the length of WZ is what happens when you take this x equals 4 and you plug it back in. Okay, we're going to take this x equals 4, this right here, and plug it back into this 9x minus 5. Okay, so 9x minus 5 becomes 9 times 4 minus 5 because that's the length that we're looking for. That becomes 36 minus 5, and that's just 31. Okay, so that's the answer choice that we're looking for right there. Okay, make sure you answer the question that's being asked. This question makes it to where you're not done after you find x. You got to keep going. All right, so moving on to question number 2. Question number 2. Question number 2 gives us a diagram right here of a triangle and tells us that R is the centroid. This point right here in the middle is the centroid. Then it gives us a length for LN, this whole segment that goes across, and it gives us the length of one piece of it, 5x minus 1. Okay, so the thing about the centroid, it was one of the weird ones. This is one of the few cases in topic 5 where things weren't being bisected. It was split into a different ratio. Okay, the weird thing about the centroid was that the longer piece, this one that it gave us, was 2/3 of the length of the whole thing, and the smaller piece right here was 1/3 of the length. Okay, so if we're going to figure out what those two pieces were, we have to have the length of the whole thing. Okay, it tells us that the whole thing is 66. So that means the larger piece would be 2/3 of the full thing, and the smaller piece would be 1/3 of the full thing. Okay, so the larger piece would be 44. The smaller piece would be a length of 22. Okay, that tells us a lot. Okay, because that tells us that this larger piece, that's 5x minus 1, equals this 44. Okay, and that's exactly the equation that we set up. We set up an equation that looks like this. 5x minus 1 equals 44. And that becomes a very easy equation to solve because you can just add the 1 and then divide by 5. That right there is what we were looking for. And make sure, of course, that you answer the question that's being asked. Find the value of x. So x equals 9. That is the end of this problem. Our next question, number 3, tells us that z is the end center. That point, this center point right here is the end center. Now, the end center is made by angle bisectors. Okay, if you look at those notes and you look at that cheat sheet that we used back on the Topic 5 test, the end center is made by angle bisectors. And if this angle down here on the edge of the triangle is being bisected, that means this 9x minus 11 equals 6x plus 4. Okay, those two angles on either side of the split are the same size. Okay, we've got an x on both sides of our equal sign right here, and that means we need to have all of the x's on one side of the equation, all of the constant numbers on the other side. So we subtract, I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 6x first on both sides. We'll get rid of that one. We'll end up with just positive 4 over there, and we end up with 3x after you subtract minus 11. Okay, then we want to move all of our constants over to the other side. So we will add 11 on both sides. That all goes away. We get 3x equals 15. And it's pretty easy to tell from there that x is going to be equal to 5. Okay, so the question that's being asked, again, this question is asking us about an angle on this triangle. This question does not care what x is equal to. That's just one of the things that goes into finding our final answer. Okay, the question is asking what is the angle that goes around UVT. Okay, it's asking for what are these two angles added together? What does that equal? If you get to this point right here, x equals 5, what are these two things added together going to be? Okay, so we have to take that x equals 5 and plug it in. We've got 6x plus 4. Well, instead of 6x plus 4, it's going to be 6 times 5 plus 4. And it's the same thing right down here. Okay, we already know that 6 times 5 plus 4 is going to be 34. That's 30 plus 4. And we also know that this angle right in here and this angle right in here are equal to each other. So we can just take that 34 and multiply it times 2. And that'll give us our total, what we're looking for, 68 degrees. All right, that's the one we're looking for. Don't stop after you found x, okay? Make sure you can answer the question that's being asked up here. Our next question, find x so that D lies on the angle bisector, all right? One of the definitions we talked about with bisectors was that on an angle bisector, one of the things we talked about was that any point that's sitting on the angle bisector is the same distance away from the two sides of the angle. Okay, this is one of those problems. There was a whole section of problems in these notes where all you had to worry about was setting one thing equal to another thing. And that was like 90% of the whole setup was just finding what two things were supposed to be equal to each other. Well, and this is one of those problems. Okay, we're going to set up an equation so that 7x plus 19 equals 11x minus 29. Okay, and if you can set that up, you're most of the way there. Okay, from here on out, that's the only geometry even involved in this whole problem. The rest of this is just solving an equation. Okay, so we're going to move all of our constants on one side, all of our x's on the other side. I'm going to subtract 7x. Okay, you'll notice that I'm always moving over the smaller x value because I don't want to deal with negative numbers. We're left with positive 19 over there. 11x minus 7x becomes 4x. We got that minus 29. Now we're going to add 29 on both sides, move all of our constants to the opposite side of the equal sign. We're left with just the positive 4x. And on the other side, we've got 29 plus 19, which is 48. Okay, after that, you just need to divide. And if you divide by 4, you get that x equals 12. All right. This question was asking us to find x. So there we go. We're finished. X equals 12. Question number 5. Question number 5 out of 6. This is a pretty simple, straightforward question. It's asking which of these numbers gives you the distance between the 2 points. All right, this is where we got to use that formula. All right, the distance between 2 points. I'm going to write down the formula and then fill in the missing numbers that go into it. All right, the distance formula is this: d equals a big old ugly square root, and underneath that square root you have x1 minus x2 in parentheses being squared plus y1 minus y2 in parentheses being squared. All right, and if you can plug in the right numbers in the right order in this whole mess of stuff, all you got to do is type that into the calculator, and it's not that difficult. All right, we want to do, in this case, we've got our x values, x1 and x2. So our distance is going to be that big square root, and our x1 we're going to say is -5. Our x2 is going to be that 1. And then our y1 is going to be 4. And our y2 is going to be -6. Now you'll see right here that we've got y1 minus y2. Well, if I say that I'm subtracting 4 minus -6, that's the same thing as 4 plus 6. And make sure you're squaring both of those things when you type it in the calculator. Okay, if you don't square it when you type it in the calculator, you're going to get a wrong answer here. Okay, this right here, after you have those numbers, you could plug that into the calculator just exactly how it is right there. Okay, that's not a requirement. You don't have to do that. In fact, I recommend simplifying some stuff down as much as you can. Okay, we already know just off the top of your head that this -5 minus 1 is going to be -6. So let's change that around. Okay, change that around. So instead of having a big old mess of stuff, turn it into -6 squared plus 10 squared. Even better than that, we already know just off the top of our heads again what -6 squared is going to be. That's going to be the square root of 36, and 10 squared is going to be 100. Now, wouldn't you agree that typing in square root of 136 is a lot easier and a lot less messy and a lot fewer chances to mess up than this whole mess of stuff that we had up here in blue? Okay, that's going to be so much easier on yourself to just type in one single thing and simplify it down as much as you can. Now, what I got was this answer right here. What I really got was about 11.66, but if we're rounding it off to one single decimal, that's going to be 11.7. So that's what we're looking for right there. Okay, square root of that whole big mess of stuff simplified down until you can type in just one single thing. It's a lot easier to deal with. Our final question, question number 6. For question number 6, it's asking us what is the value of x? Now, for this one, you need to have a little bit of knowledge about isosceles triangles, okay? Isosceles triangles are when you've got the two legs that are the same length. And what that does is it makes it to where you've got one angle up here that's just kind of by itself. You've got one side of the triangle down here that's by itself. But this leg matches and that leg matches, and that means this angle down here and this angle next to it also match each other. So here's what's going on. I'm going to redraw that triangle. Okay, if I redraw that triangle, we have one angle that's 28, we have one angle that's x, and this one down here that matches it would also be x. If that is the case, all we got to do is we could say that 28 plus x equals 180, because every single triangle that's ever been created always has 180 degrees. So you can say 28 plus x equals 180, and it sets up that equation so nicely. You combine those like terms, and then you subtract, and then it's just solving that equation. Okay, we're going to subtract 28 and then divide by 2. 180 minus 28 becomes 152. 2x equals 152. And then you just divide 152 divided by 2 to get that x by itself. And when you divide by 2 to get the x by itself, x is equal to 76. And we've done it. We have finished exam quiz number 4. And y'all remember, okay, the purpose of this is your test review. So if you can understand how to do these questions, you will do perfectly fine when the actual exam rolls around, all right? So that's all we've got for exam quiz number 4. We'll come at you again another time with exam quiz number 5. Y'all have a good one.